My parents set their sights on me, the baby daughter they'd only just found. They drugged Julian and me, letting the rice cook until it was irreversibly done. The wedding was a matter of dragging the duck onto the perch. After the ceremony, Julian stayed cold. In marital duty, he never went beyond the bare minimum. He never asked about anything that concerned me. Even when I stayed out all night and came back the next morning delivered by another man, he wouldn't spare a single question. I was getting tired. I wanted a divorce. When I laid the divorce papers in front of him, the calm that never cracked finally splintered across his face. That night he got drunk. When I came home, he was crouched by the pet talk button on the floor. He looked up at me, all wronged innocence, and pressed it with one finger. Sad, so sad. Tonight Julian came in very late. He carried the smell of alcohol. Seeing me in pajamas waiting on the sofa, he froze, his gaze lingering. Desire stirred in the depths of his eyes, thicker by the second. He tugged loose his tie and rasped, "Wait for me," then headed into the bathroom. 10 minutes later he emerged toweling his hair, a towel knotted low on his hips. Beads of water slid from his neck down to places I tried not to follow. The living room mood was perfect, dim lamplight and the custom scent I'd diffused. Just like always, he kissed my mouth, my throat, the hollow between my breasts. We tumbled onto the couch. I arched up, hands braced on his shoulders. Suddenly he stopped. "Leo's back?" he asked. Still dazed from his touch, I nodded, mind hazy. He hesitated. "You went to see him tonight?" Amazing, he actually cared about my schedule. Julian and I were a boardroom arranged match. From first date to altar we'd been somebody else's chess pieces. After the wedding his mother said, "Produce an heir and I'll stay out of your business." They didn't care whether we loved each other. They didn't care if the marriage was happy. They only needed the two surnames fused. A child would be the unbreakable bond keeping the empires allied. So, on certain calendar days, we performed scheduled intimacy like clockwork. I snapped back. Yes, he's finally home, and today's his birthday, so of course Before I could finish, Julian's hand circled my throat and his mouth crushed mine. Tonight he worked hard, as if he'd been dosed. Dosed. Thinking of that night still makes my skin burn. Before that one-night stand I hadn't even known Julian. I was the Vance daughter who'd gone missing. They brought me back 5 years ago. Mom and Dad found me too timid, too tongue-tied, nothing like the glossy heiress they wanted. They kept me away from the old money circle. Mom said it was because I'd just come home and needed time. Morgan lined up tutors anyway, etiquette, piano, things I'd never touched. 6 months ago Rachel was supposed to marry into the Sterling family. She refused. Her original fiancé was the Sterling heir apparent, but Adrian died in an accident and the duty dropped to the spare, Julian. My sister flew overseas that same night. Mom and Dad searched everywhere and came up empty. In their panic they looked at me. They officially introduced me to society. Then came the gala night, the spiked champagne, and Julian and I waking up tangled in hotel sheets. Morning light found us naked, the room trashed, both of us stunned. I clutched the blanket, lost. Julian's face was thunderous, a volcano ready to blow, yet he still had his assistant buy me clothes. When we left, the paparazzi lurking outside snapped photo after photo. That afternoon Sterling Scoop ran the headline, #Sterling Vance match imminent, elite alliance pressured by media frenzy. To stop the story from festering, our parents rushed us to the lakeside chapel. Holding the marriage certificate, I couldn't name the feeling. Moving from one mansion to another, what was so bad about that? It just felt sudden. Julian was a stranger. Apart from his face I knew nothing. A marriage like this, it felt like a prank. I sighed without thinking. The man beside me tensed, eyes shadowing. "Don't worry," he said. "We're just playing house." Oh, a fake marriage. I stayed quiet. I'm naturally reserved. Even with friends I don't say much, let alone with a man I barely knew. The idea of pretending didn't bother me. What bothered me was his mother's craving for a grandchild. Julian kept me out of her path, but he couldn't stop my own mother from cornering me. Every 3 days it was another nudge, another reminder, until my ears blistered. So I thought, maybe give them what they want, produce an heir. I found Julian and got straight to the point. "Can we have a baby?" He stared for a long moment, brows slowly knitting, as if to say, Are you insane? I kept it short. Once there's a kid, your mom and mine will get off our backs. Life gets easier for both of us. Afraid he'd refuse, I softened my voice. What do you think? He closed the folder in his lap. A few seconds of silence. Then you sure? I'm sure. All right. Next morning I woke in our bedroom. A maid tapped on the door. Mrs. Sterling, the master told us to simmer you some porridge. Ready for it. I rubbed sleep from my eyes, voice husky. Yes. On the dining table sat medicinal kanji for my stomach. I've always been frail. Since the wedding every meal is customized by the house doctor. Julian is like that, outwardly cold, probably indifferent, yet meticulous, husband duty fulfilled. Must be the training money buys. My own training is simpler, never waste food or refuse courtesy. Full and drowsy, I flopped on the sofa and binge-watched a show. Sunset came before I knew it. My phone buzzed. Mabel, new bar in South Riverdale, come hang tonight? It was Mia, Leo's little sister. When I first returned to the Vance estate, no one in the circle gave me the time of day except Mia. Thanks to her I met Leo, and the three of us became close. I glanced at the clock. Julian usually walks in around 9 on weekdays, almost time. I hesitated, ready to decline. Mia pressed, my brother's only home for a bit. We've got a squad up. You're holed up every night, aren't you bored? Julian wouldn't care. Plus my period started today, so scheduled intimacy was off. I caved. Okay, Mia chirped, I'll have Leo pick you up. When Leo arrived I was waiting curbside, wrapped in a coat. He hopped out to open the door, turned up the heater. Why didn't you wait for my call? I sniffed. Didn't want to make you wait. His smile was gentle. Never a bother. As the car warmed I unwound my scarf. At a red light Leo glanced over, paused, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face. He masked it quickly. How's married life? I told the truth. Pretty good. Sounds like you and Julian get along. He's a decent guy. Leo huffed a laugh. Only you would call Julian decent. He stopped in front of the bar but didn't get out. I leaned toward the window. What's up? His smile looked forced. Work stuff. You girls have fun. Call me when you're ready to head home. Inside, the bartender led me to the rooftop. Mia lounged at the rail. When she saw I was alone she craned her neck. Where's my brother? I sat beside her. He had to run, some urgent deal. She wasn't listening, her gaze locked on my neck, eyes sparkling with gossip. Damn, girl. You and Julian, that's a war zone of hickeys. Thought you said paper marriage, no fire? Only then did I remember last night's heat. Laughing awkwardly, I yanked the scarf back into place. Used to be like that, I admitted, but now we're trying for a baby. Mia's jaw dropped. She drained her cocktail and muttered, well, crap, now my brother's really out of the running. I missed the mutter. Say what? She slung an arm around me, pinching my cheek. I said tonight you're mine. No ditching your bestie for a man. We're the real OTP. Got it, Mabel? I grinned. Got it. Mia had her heart bruised lately. She and her boyfriend were on the outs and she'd drunk herself halfway under the table. She finally crashed just as the sky began to pale. Because we were trying for a baby, I hadn't touched a drop. I called Leo, and together we hauled Mia home and tucked her in. Then he drove me back. Alex, I'm still worried about her, I said. Leo glanced over. Relax, I called Fu Huayan. He'll swing by and look after Mia. They've been like this since high school, all scream and makeup, break up and kiss and make up. Their whole romance is World War III. Don't stress, they'll be fine in a couple of days. I laughed. Sounds epic. I kind of envy the fireworks. I really do envy Mia. She's sunny, loud, and fearless. She loves with her whole chest. And she was willing to befriend a girl no one else found likable. Whether it's love or friendship, she throws every last spark of energy into it. None of that has ever happened to me. Leo looked at me, curious. What's it like with you and Julian? I thought hard. Answered honestly. Quiet. Mostly we orbit in separate lanes. He's busy. I don't actually have much to do, so I spend a lot of time staring into space. No fights, no sulks. No silent treatment. Usually I say one line, He answers one line. Never crossing the line, never really touching, either. Taylor murmured. Sounds peaceful. Does it? I don't know. I've seen couples who claw at each other, and couples who finish each other's sentences. But I've never seen any pair quite like us. I lifted a shoulder and said nothing. Leo asked, Julian didn't call you tonight? Sun's almost up and he still hasn't come home, doesn't that bother you? I felt heat crawl up my neck. I couldn't exactly admit Julian didn't care, could I? I still had my pride. Morgan hunted for an excuse. His, broad-minded. To sell it, I nodded solemnly. The car stopped at the manor gate. Leo studied me for a long moment. Softly, are you happy, though? I didn't hesitate. Of course. Happy, maybe. He smiled. Good, then. I pushed open the door and nearly jumped out of my skin. Mrs. Brown materialized out of nowhere. Madam is home. On the sofa a man sat with his back to me. I hovered, wondering if etiquette demanded a greeting. Morgan circled around him. You're up early. Julian looked up. His usually glacial eyes carried something I couldn't read. 2 bruised dark half-moons rimmed them. Stubble shadowed his jaw. My stomach lurched. Trouble at Sterling Enterprises? Julian was obsessive about grooming. He'd never skip a razor unless the world was ending. I debated offering comfort, then decided silence was safer. While I stood there squirming, Julian stood and strode for the door. Mrs. Brown hurried after. Sir, you've been up all night, won't you have breakfast? No answer. Just the click of the front door shutting. Mrs. Brown turned to me. Madam, cook made your favorite beef noodle soup, shall I bring it out? Yes, please. I was starving. 10 minutes later the bowl sat in front of me, steam curling, plus a cup of sober-up tea on the side. I slurped noodles and asked, he really didn't sleep? Mrs. Brown nodded. Sat right here in the living room the whole night. I blinked. Huh. Why? She lowered her voice. Seemed out of sorts, insomnia, maybe. I supposed the company crisis theory made sense. Still, Julian could handle anything the board threw at him. After breakfast I lay on the bed thinking a wife ought to cheer her husband on. Morgan I thumbed open my phone and texted, don't stress, every road has potholes. Let the unexpected happen. Half an hour later he answered, you think that's normal? Absolutely. Don't overthink it. What's yours finds you, what isn't never will, right? I hugged the phone for 30 more minutes. No further reply. Scheduled intimacy night rolled around again. Julian had been leaving at dawn, returning after dusk, exhaustion clinging to him like cologne. I'd splurged on a lingerie set. Fire engine red and basically 3 strategically placed strings. I spent an hour posing and reposing in the mirror, peeling it off, climbing back in, mortified but determined to parade it for Julian at 6 sharp. The instant the grandfather clock struck 6, the front door opened. I greeted him, welcome home. A flicker of heat lit his eyes, then vanished. He looked away and murmured, and headed straight for the study. I was left staring at the closed door. I stood frozen, cheeks burning, yanking the robe tighter. What just happened? Still brooding over work. I sucked in a breath and knocked. Julian, don't shut me out. If you're upset, we can talk. Before tonight left my lips, the door swung open. He towered over me. Talk about what? I bit my lip, then forged ahead. Setbacks don't mean you're less capable. You have to learn to accept them. His face, usually granite, cracked line by line. Brows drew together. Accept. I nodded. His hands balled at his sides. A slow inhale. Mabel, don't push your luck. The door clicked shut again. Me, how is any of this my fault? Tears prickled. I called Mia and dragged her to a quiet speakeasy for a debrief. After she heard the saga, she gave me the I told you so look. Julian's emotionally bankrupt. He's not warm to you, his parents, anyone. Half of Riverdale avoids him, no loyalty, no sentiment. Perpetual poker face like the world owes him millions, and trust me, his no Adrian. Adrian, the brother whose name still eclipsed him. A prodigy killed at 26 by a drunk driver. Gentle, polished, born heir, golden at everything. Even now Victor and Eleanor haul Adrian out as the measuring stick. They are never satisfied. No matter how many all-nighters Julian pulls, his still second best. Sometimes I think he isn't their son at all, more a spare part, a dynasty maintenance tool. I understand that feeling. I heard myself protest, he's actually good to me. Cold, yes, quiet, yes, but occasionally gentle, and his memory's scary good. Anything I mention sticks the first time. For instance, I love beef noodle soup. My stomach's a mess, so the pantry's full of antacid, tonics, herbal broths. He knows I hate shopping. Each season's new jewels arrive in velvet trays without my lifting a finger. The walk-in closet overflows with clothes I'll never wear. Once I protested the waste. He said, "You don't have to wear them, but the option must exist." He'd said the same thing the night before our wedding. Valentine's Day, candlelit corner table. He slid a tiny box across the linen. Inside, a solitaire the size of a small glacier. I tried to refuse, claiming rings felt foreign on my hand. Without looking up he replied, "You don't have to wear it, but I have to give it." I shut the box and said no more, thinking, trapped into this marriage and he still observes every protocol, impeccable breeding. Mia rolled her eyes. After he freezes you out, you still defend him. I'm telling the truth. When people trash me, you jump in because you see the good in me. Well, I see the good in Julian too. When our glasses were empty, her boyfriend arrived. They kissed like nobody was watching, and I walked home alone, staring at kids in uniforms chasing each other under street lamps. A young couple pushing a stroller with a golden retriever trotting alongside. An elderly pair holding wrinkled hands beneath the sodium glow. And suddenly, I wanted out of this paper marriage. I've got plenty of flaws. But there's one thing I'm good at, being decisive. The moment I slid the divorce papers across the table to Julian, he blinked. His breathing quickened. The mask he always wore cracked, just a little. He tugged at his tie, annoyed. Then he asked, "Why?" "I don't care," he'd said. I took that to mean he didn't care about our marriage in name only. Didn't care that we lived under the same roof yet were farther apart than strangers. I said, "But I do." Once, I had no picture of what marriage should be. Since I'd never had a choice, I figured whoever it was wouldn't matter. Later, I wanted to make it work with Julian. Once I did, I started acting strange. I began to wonder what normal couples looked like. What normal husbands and wives did. I started hoping the word love might appear in our dictionary. Hoping Julian would look at me a little more. Hoping we wouldn't feel like strangers. But I've never been good at winning people over. Pretty words don't come to me. I'm slow, awkward, and thick-skinned. I want to move closer, yet I'm scared. Because I know my courage is paper-thin. One rejection from him and I'll never step forward again. Morgan, I'm anxious, swinging between wild hope and dread. I hate feeling like this. After a long silence, Julian picked up the divorce agreement and glanced at it for a few seconds. "Half of everything," he said. "I'll have a new copy drawn up." I blurted, "No need. I own nothing worth counting. And everything Julian has nothing to do with me. What right do I have to take half?" Julian stood. We were husband and wife, at least. He invited both sets of parents to dinner, planning to break the news early and spare future trouble. Before we got out of the car he warned me, "Don't speak. I'll handle it." I nodded gently. Inside the private dining room, the parents were laughing over their plates. Julian dropped it like a bomb, "I'm filing for divorce." Silence slammed down. His mother spoke first. "Have you lost your mind? Married 6 months and already divorcing, do you think marriage is a joke?" His father's face turned storm-dark. My mother tried to smooth things over. "Is it something Mabel did? Couples need to be more tolerant. You know, Mabel was raised by those people. Her breeding." Julian cut her off, frowning. "This isn't about her. It's me. I want the divorce. You all claim to be so refined, surely you can understand plain English?" My parents' expressions curdled. They swallowed the insult for the sake of face. Julian's father snatched a porcelain chopstick rest and hurled it at his son. "You ungrateful wretch. It should have been you who died that day." The sharp edge clipped Julian's temple. A line of crimson slid down. I never imagined his father could say such a thing, let alone strike him. Startled, I jumped up and reached for the wound. He caught my hand and murmured, "It's fine." He was lying. It obviously hurt. His eyes were glassy. I stepped between them, shaking with anger. How could you say that? Isn't Julian your child? Does watching him bleed give you satisfaction? My mother snapped, shut your mouth. The dinner ended in icy disaster. I followed my parents back to the Vance estate. The moment the door shut, my mother spun around, stabbing a finger at me. How many times did I tell you this corporate marriage matters? It concerns both companies. You can't learn, you're slow-witted, and now you can't even perform the simple duty of being somebody's wife. You disappoint me beyond words. I stood by the entrance, looking at her furious face. Softly I asked, Mom, have I disappointed you again? But no one ever taught me how to be a satisfactory daughter. She had no answer. At 6 I went missing, snatched by a trafficking ring. My memories of childhood are blurry, I being passed from one temporary home to another. When I was 12 I ran away and met my foster parents. They were old, poor, their backs permanently bent from pushing a wonton cart. A bowl cost $4.50. They started work at 4 a.m. They sent me to school on those meager earnings, drilling decency into me. My foster father's health failed. He died when I was 15. At 19 my foster mother was diagnosed with a terminal illness. That same year my biological parents appeared. They offered money for her treatment. But the disease was too advanced. No amount of medicine could save her. Before she closed her eyes she said, "Seeing you settled lets me go in peace." She patted my hand and told me to live well. After I returned to the Vance estate, nothing felt natural. I'd never seen a chandelier that enormous. Never seen a walk-in closet bigger than my high school classroom. Never slept in a bed that soft. Mom and Dad were considerate yet distant. I understood. Over a decade apart breed strangers. I also understood I could never match my sister. Bright, graceful, dazzling. I tried, yet every time, my mother's eyes held disappointment. I thought she was upset. I learned slowly. Morgan, I drove myself, desperate for her approval. Only now do I see, she's disappointed in who I am. I will never become the daughter she pictured. My past is a stain in her eyes. My foster parents, people she considers beneath mention. My thoughts snapped back when my father cleared his throat. Enough talk of disappointment. We're family. Mabel, you didn't eat much. I'll have the cook make you pasta. I don't eat pasta. I hate the taste. He blinked. Then some milk to tide you over. I'm allergic to milk. My skin itches the moment I drink it. Mother frowned. Allergic? Why haven't you mentioned it? I smiled. See? You're not exactly a model mom either. Compared to my real mother, you don't measure up. So I'm disappointed in you too. I turned to my father. And you? Before they could answer, I walked out of the Vance estate. I called Julian, no reply. Went home, he wasn't there. I texted, "You okay?" No answer. A few minutes later, "Clean the cut, okay?" Still nothing. That afternoon Mia called. Leo was flying overseas. Did I want to see him off? So soon? Can't he stay for New Year's? She sighed. My brother's schedule is insane. Once boys grow up you can't chain them down. I laughed and asked for the address. The three of us shared a meal. Halfway through, the smell of beef broth hit me and my stomach flipped. Avery joked, "Don't tell me you're pregnant." Leo's ladle paused mid-air. He looked at me. I answered, uncertain, "No way." We walked Leo to the gate. He glanced at my midsection, bent to hug me gently. "Be happy." I smiled. "You too." Afterward Mia dragged me to the hospital. The test came back positive. I was pregnant, barely 2 months. I was stunned. Divorce papers almost signed, and now this. Seeing my face, Mia waved a hand in front of my eyes. "Isn't this what you wanted? Why the long face?" I didn't tell her the truth. I only said it felt surreal. She nodded. "Crazy, right?" She grabbed my hand. "Deal. When the baby's born, I'm the godmother." Already muttering, "What should I buy? Gold is tacky. Maybe a car." "No, babies can't drive and it'll just sit there." Her voice orbited me like stereo surround. I laid a hand on my still flat belly, trying to feel a life not yet feelable. My heart seesawed between joy and panic. After turning it over, I decided Julian had the right to know. We had to talk. 2 more days crawled by, and Julian still hadn't shown his face. He hadn't even set foot in the office. His assistant said, "Mr. Sterling's been working remotely lately. I have no idea where he is." I asked her for the contact of one of Julian's closest buddies. I called the number. It rang a few times, then a voice barked, "Yeah, who's this?" I introduced myself. "Hi, I'm Mabel. Have you seen Julian in the last few days? If you do, could you ask him to call me? I have something really important to tell him." The line went quiet for a couple of beats. "Oh, hey, sis. Julian was with me the day before yesterday, but I haven't seen him today." A little deflated, I murmured, "Okay, thanks anyway. No biggie. Don't worry if I see him, I'll make sure he gets back to you." Mrs. Brown's son was getting married today, so she'd taken the day off. I ate dinner alone outside. When I came home, a single warm lamp was glowing in the hallway. The pup, Ava, twirled around my feet, tail wagging like a flag in a hurricane. She barked toward the living room. I followed her gaze. Julian was crouched in front of the Pet Talk console, head hanging. I walked over. "Julian." The reek of alcohol hit me hard. I knelt beside him. "How did you get this wasted?" He lifted his eyes, bloodshot, as if he'd been crying. Stray locks drooped over his forehead, the usual frosty composure was gone. The gash on his brow had scabbed, but it still looked angry. My voice softened without my permission. "What happened?" He didn't answer. Instead he jabbed a paw-shaped button. "Sad. Sad." I froze. He pressed again. "No. Don't." I tilted my head. "Don't what?" Then I noticed the white pages beside him. I picked them up, freshly printed divorce papers in his handwriting. A sour mash of feelings clogged my throat. Just then a phone buzzed, his. Caller ID, Ryan. I answered, meaning only to say that Julian was back. Before I could, Ryan unloaded in a single breath. "Dude, you finally pick up. Where the hell did you disappear to? Mabel's been looking everywhere. If you don't want the divorce, just tell her no need to vanish and play tragic. How hard is it to say I love you? Man, I don't get you." The console chirped again. "Love you. Love you." Rowan yelped, "What's going on?" I snapped back. "Ah, sorry. Julian's drunk." The line went dead quiet. I hung up and met Julian's glassy stare. Ava wedged between us, tail thumping. "Daddy. Mommy. Food. Food." First morning light spilled across the bedroom. The hand draped over my waist twitched. 3 silent seconds. Julian shot upright. I opened my eyes. "Morning." He looked mortified, brain clearly rebooting. "Last night, did we?" After an awkward beat he apologized. "I'm sorry, I was drunk." I blinked, processing. Only then did I realize he thought we'd slept together. Filing for divorce and waking up in the same bed sounded like a soap opera plot. I sat up and smoothed my hair, dignity first. "You hungry? Mrs. Brown's off until this afternoon." He blinked at my calm, then nodded woodenly. "Okay, I'll cook." Sliding into his slippers, he shuffled out like a puppet. 20 minutes later he knocked. "It's ready." My favorite beef noodle soup steamed on the table, plus a glass of warm water. The divorce papers lay where I'd left them, dead center, impossible to miss. All through breakfast Julian's brow stayed furrowed. I lifted the papers. "About this." He cut in, voice carefully flat. "Look it over. If nothing's wrong, sign." He didn't meet my eyes. I took a sip of water. "Julian, I've changed my mind. I don't want a divorce." He froze, certain he'd misheard. "Come again." I said, "Can we not divorce?" My hand drifted to my belly. "I'm pregnant. 7 weeks exactly." His lashes fluttered, joy flickered, then drowned in something darker. After a moment he laughed, soft and bitter. "All right." I exhaled. Remembering Ryan's rant, I grew bold. "Will you come home earlier to keep me company?" "Sure. I want to catch a movie today." "Okay. And maybe the amusement park?" He already had his phone out. "I'll book tickets. Can I have bubble tea?" His thumb stopped scrolling. "Sorry, no dairy." He said it's off limits. I hid a smile. "Plenty of teas don't use milk. I'll be fine." He frowned. "I'll double check." He stood to call. Quinn. Chin in hand, I watched him walk away. I could order my own drink, of course, but I liked being looked after, being cared about. At 5 months, my sister Rachel flew home from overseas. She stared at my bump, jaw unhinged. "You're pregnant," I nodded, confused by the storm gathering on her face. She clutched her forehead. "They forced you into marriage, then into making a baby. Mabel, are you made of clay they can just mold?" She paced like a tigress. Back then our parents had ordered her into the same corporate marriage. When she refused, they locked her in the house to smooth her edges. We'd always been close, seeing her swollen red eyes that night. I only wanted her free. "Morgan," I'd whispered, squeezing her hand, "Mom and Dad are out run tonight." We'd clicked like matching puzzle pieces. She'd packed and vanished before dawn. When our parents grilled me, I'd played dumb, half asleep. She'd come back the instant she heard I'd married Julian. Snapping to the present, she stopped mid-stride. "No worries, I own a condo abroad and have a steady job. I can support you and the kid." She tapped frantically on her phone. "You're only 5 months, flying's still safe." "Yes, tickets, now. Let's go." I pressed her hand flat. "I'm not leaving." Some of her fire dimmed. "Right, can't leave yet. First we get you divorced." Me, before I could explain, Mrs. Brown's voice floated from the foyer, "Mr. Sterling's home. Why not come inside?" Rachel clamped her mouth shut. We both looked toward the corner. Julian appeared, perfectly composed. He offered Rachel a polite nod, then pivoted into the study. Rachel bit her lip, pointing after him. "He heard everything, didn't he?" "Probably." I brewed a cup of coffee and carried it into the study. Julian worked on a spreadsheet, eyes never leaving the screen. I hovered, half wanting to stay, half wanting to bolt. Worry 1. I dove straight in. "You overheard my sister, didn't you?" His hand paused over the mouse. "I wasn't eavesdropping. I'm not blaming you. I just want you to know I won't divorce you, and I'm not going anywhere. Please don't let her words get to you, okay?" I watched him until he finally inclined his head. "Okay." Only then did my lungs remember how to breathe. I stepped closer, grinning. "The baby kicked today, first time." His gaze darted up, bright with wonder. I pushed my belly forward. "Wanna feel?" He laid his palm against me, slow and careful. The next second he froze, a smile flooding his eyes. It really moved. The baby seemed to recognize him, answering with another flutter. My heart felt impossibly full. They say when you love someone, it shows. Even if your mouth stays shut, it leaks right out of your eyes. I guess that's exactly how I look. Tonight my sister is curled beside me, chin in her hand, staring for the longest time before she blurts, "Have you fallen for Julian? Is it that obvious?" Before I can answer, she fires a second question. "What about Leo? Didn't you used to like him?" I pull a face. "Leo's just a friend. When did I ever say I liked him?" She's stunned. "He was the only guy friend you ever had." "I figured you too." I shake my head hurriedly. "No, absolutely not." She tries again. "So, Julian?" I smile. "I do. Very much." The moment the words leave my mouth, I notice the shadow by the door slipping away. My sister hesitates. "But Julian, he's famous for being cold." "With your soft heart, I'm afraid." I cut her off. "That's only the surface. Actually, underneath he's sensitive and gentle." Thinking of how he's taken care of me these past days, I can't help smiling. "He's a wonderful husband. He'll be a wonderful dad." She still looks skeptical, so I pull up the security clip of Julian drunk that night and show her. She's so shocked she barely sleeps a wink, whispering, "I never knew Julian could be like that." I hide under the quilt and text him. "I saw you eavesdropping. You did it on purpose this time." The chat window shows typing. A minute later his reply pops up, "Go to sleep. Sister slips away again, never letting Mom and Dad know she was here. Julian sees her off with me at the airport. On the drive I doze off. When we reach the house Julian doesn't wake me. He reclines the seat and I nap in the car for 2 more hours while he sits beside me the whole time. I ask, "Why didn't you wake me?" Instead of answering he says, "Mabel, do you want a wedding? After the baby comes, just the 2 of us." Our first marriage happened in a rush. Our parents cared only about the marriage certificate and skipped anything that felt like work. The venue, The flowers, everything had been left over from the ceremony originally meant for Rachel and Adrian. Back then I didn't mind. Now things are different. Who wouldn't want a romantic celebration that belongs only to them and the person they love? I nod blankly. I do. He smiles, lacing his fingers through mine until the solitaires on our ring fingers overlap, and whispers, then we will. 1 year later we exchange vows again in a tiny lakeside chapel overseas. Julian plans every detail himself. Even the wedding gown I'm wearing is sketched by him and sewn to order. The officiant stands between us, his voice solemn in the vaulted quiet. Julian, will you have this woman to be your wedded wife, to live together in the estate of matrimony? Will you love her, comfort her, honor and keep her, in sickness and in health, in prosperity and adversity, and forsaking all others, keep yourself only unto her, so long as you both shall live? Looking straight at me, Julian answers, I will spend the rest of my life with you. I pledge every ounce of my loyalty, in poverty or wealth, in sickness or health, in youth or old age. My heart will never change. And you? Do you willingly enter this covenant? Tears blur my vision. I rise on tiptoe and touch my lips to his. I will. Julian had never imagined marrying, let alone marrying the fiancée of his dead brother. The first time his parents suggested it, he refused flat out and shouted at them for the first time in his life, then cut contact for a month. Then the Vance family scheduled a gala night to publicly acknowledge their younger daughter. An invitation arrived at the Sterling Manor. Julian meant to ignore it, but his mother rang with gentle insistence. The two families were old friends, their businesses braided together. Fine. He would make an appearance. He never guessed that one concession would detonate an accident. He woke up in bed with Mabel, paparazzi flashbulbs popping as he left the hotel. He knew his parents had choreographed the trap. Morgan, the shouting resumed. When the yelling died, he forced himself to think about the girl. He remembered her from college, different years, distant glimpses. Ryan had mentioned how she'd finally come home only to be overlooked. If he backed out now, what would happen to her? Morgan, he yielded. His parents engineered a fortnight of mandatory bonding, and somewhere in those 14 days his heart inched toward hope. At the first wedding nothing felt like his, except the bride standing before him. After the honeymoon, Mabel adopts a puppy. She holds long conversations with it, tiny sound buttons scattered across the floor. That's a pet talk board, she explains, half worried. It won't bother you, will it? No. Good. The once silent house fills with life. She loves that dog more than anyone, it seems. Julian relocates his laptop from the study to the living room sofa so he can watch woman and pup chase each other. When she catches him staring, she flushes. Am I disturbing you? He clears his throat, ears warming. Not at all. Her dimples flash. He drops his gaze. By their second month of marriage, the air between them softens. Mabel quits being politely aloof, and silence stops feeling like shards of glass. She even teaches the puppy to press mama when it wants her and dada when it looks at him. Dad. The word is new territory. The mutt yaps, tail whirring like a propeller, while she laughs and doles out treats. He tells himself it's childish, yet undeniably cute. She's cute. The dog is cute. When she isn't home, Julian finds himself copying her, pushing buttons with the puppy and mumbling, Dad loves you too, feeling ridiculous and warm at the same time. One sun-drenched afternoon, she dozes on the couch. He crouches on the rug, feeding duck jerky to the pup. Button pressed. Daddy, daddy. Love you, love you. He can't name the feeling swelling in his chest, but he knows he wants this life, with her, to last. Only, he suspects her heart already belongs to someone else. Catching up with Ryan one night, he hears Leo's name. Ryan slaps his shoulder. Those two were almost an item back then, didn't you know? Julian says nothing. After a beat he stands. The past is the past, yet his mind careens, bitter and noisy, and for the first time ever he lights a cigarette. Leo, soft-spoken, thoughtful Leo would have been a perfect match. But scandal pinned her to Julian instead, and he decides the least he can do is stay out of her way. They drift back into parallel lines that never meet until an ordinary afternoon when she surprises him at the office. Can we make a baby? He wonders if exhaustion is making him hallucinate. Meeting her cautious, hopeful eyes, he gives a small nod. All right. Days stack into weeks, and life loosens again. Her scent clings to every room, her laughter rides the air. The workaholic races the clock each evening just to find her sprawled on the sofa. Then, at 9 p.m., Julian watches her climb into Leo's car and stay out all night. He spends the dark hours motionless on the living room couch, heart hammering loud as thunder. He tells himself she is challenging him, punishing him. When she finally returns, she says, "Don't panic, dators are normal. You have to allow for accidents. Failures don't mean you're worth less. Learn to accept them." Failure? Who has he lost to? Leo? Apparently. Fine. She's suffered enough, he won't add to it. But then she asks for divorce papers. Julian gropes for a lifeline and manages only, "Half of everything is yours." If that's what she wants, so be it. Years later, reminiscing, Mabel pokes his chest. "How could you believe I ever loved Leo? We're husband and wife, why didn't you just ask me? You had every right to demand an answer." True. But back then Julian assumed their marriage was nothing more than a boardroom arranged match, no real feelings involved. Who could have guessed? Hands on hips, she huffs, "If I hadn't found out I was pregnant, we'd be divorced exes by now." That was close. Chuckling, he pinches her cheek. "Our daughter saved us. When she gets home I'll reward her." "Hey, don't I get a reward? What do you want?" "A bubble tea." "Not good for you. Just once in a while." "Fine, hot, no ice." She smacks a loud kiss on his face. Deal. And so the years unroll, messy, noisy, utterly happy. Thanks for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more wonderful stories. See you next time.